Welcome back to the MinMax challenge, the challenge where enemies always max roll and I always min roll. If you haven't seen the first episode of this yet, then do so now or there will be consequences. Anyway, we have moved up to Urban Myth, and I'd like to describe this chapter as I don't know what I'm doing, but people are dying, so yeah. So the first fight is gonna be Pierre's Bistro, and here's a bit of trivia for you. Keep It Fresh has the highest naturally rolling evade die in the game that you can select from, your usual combat pages from the menu. So yeah, Jack just casually will roll a 12 with a evade die. That and them having some pretty high attack rolls is pretty eh. But thankfully their pages only usually have like 2 dice, so I can sneak in some third die hits. Something else I should have mentioned is that I really have grown fond of Ashes. You've probably seen my no combat page video, and Lockdown is not the only fight I've ever done. I've actually also completed Ego Philip with no combat pages, and he was actually a lot easier. I've just kind of given up on that challenge in Urban Nightmare because enemies just deal way too much damage to really keep up. But it definitely taught me that Malchus floor is actually pretty good for this challenge. Even if I'm not winning any clashes, I can still at least deal some chip damage with Ashes. And burn stacks tend to stack up really nicely. You're definitely going to see a lot of burn stuff going on in this episode. This fight is really boring and nothing really happens in it. So I'm taking my precious time out of the day to read some of your comments that you left on my last video. Impossible, you say? Nah man, I'm cracked. Though I am aware that Fiery Dragonfist will roll a 28 and Distorted Blade will roll a 25. Aw man. I like how this comment is like the polar opposite of the previous comment. I think Gebura Brain Rot is probably the cause of people forgetting how insanely high some of the roll ranges in SOTC are. I already replied to this comment, but just to clarify, I am banning stealth for this challenge. Spring's Genesis is like insanely broken in most fights, and then there's Claws of Savagery, which is the best Abner page in the entire game, and let me just say, even most modded content cannot come close to how broken Claws of Savagery is. And because I think going completely invincible after scene 2 is kind of cheating, I'll just not. See, you noticed? You noticed it? I put the pages in the video, and how dare you not exactly remember every single page in Library of Ruina. Does anybody remember Outburst? I remember Outburst. It's Outburst, guys. It's the page. Though for real, I was just kind of tired of editing for the first episode. I should get myself one of those editing twinks that do it for free. You shut the fuck up. You make it sound like there is really anything to show. Like, most of the attempts boiled down to start the fight, hit space, check the light costs of the enemies, check the speed dice, and then maybe you have an attempt, and if the things just don't happen, you restart. Like, I don't know how to convey it otherwise, that just you have to hope that the enemies play the right page or you just die. And that's all the willpower I have for today to read comments. Even if I didn't show your comment from the last video, I still do read every comment, or I try to at least. So right away. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you. Unfortunately, Jack just absolutely bodies me here. Thankfully, a lot of the early fights allow for you using multiple floors, which is definitely the save and grace of the early game. Next, I attempt to do Forsaken Murderer, but I get absolutely bodied. So I just let that one lie and do Streetlight Office next. I was planning to just quickly kill Mars for his key page here, but I accidentally just end up winning the fight. So while that's going on, let me tell you a bit about what I think about this challenge so far. Going blind into this challenge, I expected the challenge to be fairly difficult but doable. And so far it has been that, but there are several roadblocks on the map that really terrify me. One of which definitely being the crying children. I kind of dread that fight, but that is still pretty far away. The more immediate dread would be Walter and the dogs. I'm definitely going to have to like sit down for a while and just compare cards for a very long time until I can beat these fights. Unlike what you're seeing right now, where I'm just kind of like throwing together some decks that I think are going to do okay. Now a bit of technical shenanigans. Right now this mod only like lets me low roll and the enemies max roll, but it isn't 100% bad RNG. Like I can still hit like the percentual chances of things procking, or the Way of Sin could still give me 2 strength instead of 1 whenever it activates. So if anybody knows a way to implement this as well, where I would just like have maximum bad luck, then ayo, hit me up. Anyway, I once again try Forsaken Murderer, this time with Mars key page, and I still get my ass kicked, so I'm gonna put him on hold again. Instead, I'll do the second episode of Streetlight Office, in hopes that this gets me somewhere. And the fight goes actually better than I expected. There isn't really much I can say, so enjoy the show. Never mind, there is something I can say. Here's a bit of more game trivia for you. The page Lulu uses here is not actually Taste My Flaming Bat, it is actually Eat My Flaming Bat, which has slightly higher rolls than the regular Taste My Flaming Bat. There is more card jank here, like the page Fleet Footsteps uses the terminology on the fence on its evade die. The logical explanation for this is that Library of Ruina is not a finished game. They couldn't be asked to fix all their early game shenanigans when they didn't know they were supposed to make a card game, so all you're really left with is questionable rolls and mechanics, insane power spikes, horribly designed abnormality pages, and abnormality pages that were not created with future content in mind. Hi learning, how's it going? To not leave you in complete silence, I guess I'll just talk a little bit about myself. So hey, I'm Ty. Some people call me Tyler, even though that's not my real name. I do like Minecraft stuff most of the time, but I guess PM hijacked my channel now, so that's okay. Despite its many flaws, Ruina is like one of my favorite games ever. So whenever somebody draws a Persona connection in this game, I just die on the inside. For like the past couple of months, I've been getting the Ruina itches really badly. And while I patiently wait for Ruina's Archipelago integration, and most mod slop not really cutting it for me at the moment. But then I watched like one video of this mod and I was like, damn, this sucks. I want to do it. And here we are. On another note, I do all my recording and editing on the weekends, so I don't really have all that much time for this challenge. So if my upload schedule seems a bit inconsistent, to put it lightly, yeah, that would be why. So that's totally a reason why you should subscribe and ring the... Sorry, that sentence was so repulsive to me that I vomited up a black hole. Do it anyway, because I'm funny and original. Seriously though, once I get to like Urban Nightmare, SOTC, videos are probably gonna take a lot longer to produce. So I might just consider like streaming some attempts in the future when I have the time. In case you're curious where voiceover Ty is at the moment, I'm kind of knocking at the door of Urban Plague right now. Just having some difficulties with the dogs. Anyway, enough yapping. Time to stare at the fight. Shiloh of the Day is basically the same fight as vanilla, because obviously it loses power, which even if Shiloh rolls a 16, it doesn't really matter because all the power loss just rounds it down to a 2. So I'm gonna start like giving you a bit of analysis about the Adno pages that I'm gonna receive and how they're gonna affect the run. So Shiloh of the Day is one of those aforementioned poorly designed pages that just gives you +2 die power without any downsides. Unless patience is for some reason a downside. Social distancing and shyness are like considered some of the weaker pages on Hod's floor, but honestly I'll take anything that gives me die power and allows me to roll over the number 3. So yeah, a welcome addition. I'm definitely probably going to use Hod's floor in the near future. Okay, I can't avoid it any longer. I need to do Forsaken Murder in order to level up my library. So yeah, per usual, he basically outrolls everything I have unless I keep a status effect on him at all times. The problem is, sustaining a status effect is actually a bit harder than it might seem. Especially when you have no econ card whatsoever. Well, I guess charge is an econ card, but come on, it's charge, man. After a lot of deck tinkering, I just built this and it somehow miraculously worked out. I definitely did not just get filtered a bunch of time and I just prayed that I draw the correct page every turn. I think there's probably an easier solution with Lulu's key page, but honestly, that's in the past now, and honestly he was not as bad as Ewan's Fixer 1. I will never forget Ewan's Fixer 1. This last turn is pretty funny, because his HP is actually displayed incorrectly. This can sometimes just happen with status effects. The same can also happen to emotion coins, but you know, we've been over this. It's an unfinished game. This is the last fight in Urban Myth, and we are now considered an urban legend. Soon, we might even be able to play a real video game. Anyway, Forsaken Murderous Pages. Metallic Ringing is still pretty good, because Paralysis is good, especially in this challenge where enemies always max roll. Chained Wrath is Blunt Die Power, which is nice, we always appreciate more power. And Violence is just straight up a debuff. So we will never pick Violence, ever. That is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you the next time. Oh god, I'm gonna have to fight Walter.